Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. I forgot. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Limchaco, and Commissioner Martinez. We hope Commissioner Sanchez will join us soon. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to note on issues for decision on the agenda, we are tabling Resolution 30-FY 2022 until next month. We still need to get some supporting data together before we can bring that before the board for decision. So moving on
Miguel,
to
30, it's not on the board books. Is it mean that's why it's tabled?
Yeah, it's not in the board book, so you don't have a package, but it's on the agenda, and I'm just pointing it out.
Okay.
So we'll start with Resolution 31, FY 2022. And this is seeking your express approval to enter into an engagement with the auditing firm that has been selected based on our recent procurement. As you know, the public law requires us, and the bond indenture and our federal grants require us to do an audit. The engagement letter that has been sent to us by the accounting firm is required based on auditing standards, and the auditors require that the engagement letter be expressly authorized by the board. You've obviously authorized us to do the procurement, but because you have not expressly authorized us to sign the engagement letter, we wanted to bring this before you. So it's really just a formality. The audit, of course, will be conducted over the next 5 years. This engagement is over the next 5 years. 4 years. 3 years with one option year. And the estimated costs are there, $75,000 starting in 2022 with $2,000 escalations per year in the second and the third year. We will be charged, in addition to the base fees, any direct expenses incurred with the audit, and we are striving to achieve completion of the audits by the end of February in each year. This is funded out of revenues, and the procurement was put out in June of 2022, and only one proposal was received on July 14th, and we issued a notice of conditional award to Ernst & Young, the firm that responded, on August 8th. So we need to get this approved so we can sign the engagement letter and just formalize the agreement.
Okay. I only have one question real quick. Is there a new law that says that the OPA is the one who now will make the payments to, or that's not in effect yet?
I haven't seen the law.
Yeah, maybe it's still a bill.
Right.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
my understanding.
Okay.
Miguel, how does the current bid pricing compare to the prior audit years or prior contracts?
It's slightly more.
Slightly, how many percent?
It was, I believe it was like 69 was the last.
So like a 10% over a 10% increase?
Yeah, they actually bid higher, and so we were able to negotiate it down. I think the original bid for the first year was 78. So we were able to.
The prices for the prior contract were similarly structured. It was a multi-year.
It was multi-year, but every year there was a slight escalation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, next one.
Next is Resolution 32, FY 2022, and this is relative to approving the fiscal year 23 O&M budget. As the board is aware, we submitted our 5-year rate package, and the comprehensive review and update to that was for the last 3 years. The rate package was filed on May 1st, 2021, and to this date, the PUC has not taken action on it. We rolled over for fiscal year 22, we rolled over the 21 budget with some adjustments and no rate increases, and at this point, we're coming up on the end of the fiscal year, and we need to have something in place approved by the board. The odd thing about this is that we're presenting it to you now in the work session, and then later this week we have a scheduled PUC hearing where they supposedly will act or intend to act on our rate application or the comprehensive review and update. So we may know by the end of the week whether what we present to you now in the work session will change. And so by the time we get to the meeting, we may have to make revisions if we want the budget to conform to whatever PUC action is taken. But what we did prepare for you was two options or two scenarios. One assumes that the PUC will take no action and no rate relief will be granted. Option two is if they implement the rate design that GWA has proposed. For the two options, if there is no rate increase, and we anticipate revenues to remain flat with projections at $103 million, but it will require us to draw down about $18 million from the rate stabilization fund, which will essentially deplete that, and then whatever additional ARPA funds we might get, we anticipate to increase total fund sources to about $121 million. We've projected operating expenses at $74 million, about 10% more than our current annualized FY22 expenses, which are still under cost containment. There's also a $6 million increase in debt service that will occur in the coming year. So with all of those projections, we're looking at potentially just 1.3 times debt service coverage, which is below the target of 1.4 that was set previously by the CCU and the PUC.
But still above the
Still
bond
above the
requirement.
minimum, 1.25. I think right now we're at 1.29 or 1.3 for the month, or year to date, okay. But again, it has, that is because we've made transfers and reductions to operating expenses that we would prefer not to make. So under option one, as I mentioned, the reserves were almost completely depleted, leaving us no wiggle room anywhere in the year after fiscal year 23, or if anything happens during fiscal 23 to reduce revenues. The second option that we present is kind of mirrors our original request to the PUC, which is adopting the new rate design for fiscal year 23. It is also closely aligned to what the ALJ had recommended in his report to the PUC. If you consider what he recommended for fiscal year, the remaining portion of fiscal year 22, and the compounding effect of what he proposed for fiscal year 23, it comes out to, I think, about 7.38%, and what we have, our new rate design is just slightly higher than that. But for most of the residential rate class customers, if we adopt the new rate design, their bills, typical bills will be, for water and sewer, will be lower than they're currently seeing for fiscal year 21 rates that have been rolled over. So the new rate design is intended to help the residential rate class, especially those with the most financially challenged. So if we do adopt the new rate design, we anticipate about $111 million, and then we would add to that any ARPA funds or transfers from the RSF for a total, again, of $121 million. We keep the operating expenses the same with the increase in debt service, and our coverage remains at 1.3 times. However, we reduce the amount of reserves, which leaves us a prudent amount for the coming years and any unexpected challenges that the utility might face going forward. So those are the two budgets that we've presented for you.
Okay, I only see one budget
There's only one included
in the board book.
in our recommendation, but there is on this Exhibit A.
Okay.
You will see the two options
Okay.
on the far
Yeah,
right
yeah,
hand.
Yeah.
In red letters at the top of the columns, no rate increase, which is option one, and then our rate design, which is option two.
Okay. We anticipate a decision of one way or the other
Yes, sir.
after the Thursday night meeting with the PUC. I think there's going to be a decision. I hope it's a decision to give us some more rate relief. You know, nobody likes rate increases. I don't like rate increases. But I'll just point out one big glaring thing just off the top of my head. We recently completed the upgrade of the northern wastewater treatment plant. Added a lot more processes to it. It's a whole different plant. And people have to realize that that's going to require more maintenance than what we're doing currently. And more chemicals, more everything. So it's really a hard one. I think we struggle with this, and we don't explain this well enough to our public. I don't know how we do that. It's a very hard one too, because you can't explain this in one sitting. You know, this is a lot. Every commissioner, I know, we go through reams of things on our board books to read and, you know, look at, and so it's really very hard. Commissioners, any questions?
No, the only questions that I have, Miguel, is there an opportunity to present this revised rate schedule on this week's meeting? Or does it have to be like a completely new submission to the PUC?
No, it does not have to be a new submission. So the record is closed for the adjudication, and the ALJ has made his final report and recommendations. However, the PUC has indicated that we will be allowed to answer questions that they have and make any comments that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not asking for anything different than we've already asked for.
Right.
All we're saying is the ALJ has recommended this, and we're just asking you to do what we already requested, which is very, almost equivalent to what the result will be if you adopt the ALJ's findings. So it's not new, and it doesn't require any new filings or new proceedings, but there is an opportunity for us to restate our request.
But the rate structures, as you said, actually would reduce the residential rates, right?
Yes.
So you're going
that was also presented previously. Yes.
Oh, okay, so they do have that information already. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
And the only thing is, just for clarity, Miguel, the ALJ's report recommends not approving the rate design, which would give us that, right?
That's correct. The
So-
first
The previous rate design, not the
No,
revised one, or either of them?
It was silent on the new rate design, so it assumed, or it recommended, the ALJ's report recommended a 4% increase in 2022 over the 2021 rates. Not changing the rate design, but just bumping them up. And then 3.25% in the current year, which when you compound it with the 4%, gives you 7.38
Which is
above
his recommendation.
fiscal year 21 rates.
Got it.
And your recommendation is a little over 8,
It's right
It's
about
a-
8.1.
8.1, so it's
The
very
total
close.
difference in dollars is about 800,000.
Okay.
Based on our projection.
But
So
I
it's
want to
not
stress,
a lot more.
I want to stress, because I read through that stuff, the rate design, he doesn't ask the PUC to adopt the rate
No,
design.
he does not.
And that's the key to lowering the rates for the bottom, for our more challenged
And
ratepayers.
another important thing to note on the rate design is that it was a requirement of the February
stipulation.
2020
Stipulated.
rate order, right? They required us to do the analytical studies to look at cost of service.
Because that was
right?
part of the stipulation.
Yes, and it's been the stated intent of the PUC to align to more cost of service based rates, and that's what
what
the
we
new rate
did.
design does.
Yeah.
So it puts us in the position to do what they want us to do as we move forward, and it more fairly spreads out the cost of service.
So you get to answer questions on that so that you can hopefully help them understand that whole dynamics.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing from me, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Martinez? Okay. Thank you, that's it. Do you have a report for us?
We have a management report, and I can go through that briefly.
Can you make it? What time's your meeting? What time's your meeting?
As long as we're done by 9:30.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we got 15 minutes.
Can
20
you make
minutes.
it kind of fast?
Yes. Speed round.
We can slow it down on the regular meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So just for the operations update on production, things look fairly similar. We had a total production for the month of August at 38.4 million gallons a day average. 93 wells actively operating with 16 down, requiring change of motors. This has been an increasing trend, and part of this this is part of the reason why we will be putting forth Resolution 30 next month, is to deal with this issue. On Tumon Maui, we had pretty much constant production at about 1 MGD, and then for the Yugum surface water treatment plant, we're holding steady at 2.2 MGD. Our reservoir capacities stabilized for most of the month and then started to climb at the end of the month. We are getting some of the tanks taken care of, and that's part of the reason for that. On the wastewater collection side, we had an increase in pump station operability at essentially 91%, up from just I think a little below that from the month before. So we're improving our pump station operability on the wastewater side. On CCTV inspection and cleaning, for August we completed 4.05 miles, a little bit below our target of 5 miles a month, but we will be able to make the full annual requirement without any issues. On that note, our crews are getting some training. Next month we got a grant from DOI for some technical training, and the wastewater collection crews will be receiving training next week.
Miguel, does that coincide with the rainy weather? It's like you're limited to what you can inspect with the weather, or no?
No, not on the cleaning and CCTV.
Okay.
It's more just there are some areas that are easier to do quickly, and some areas that are a little more challenging.
A lot longer.
Yeah. On the wastewater treatment side, we disposed of about 365,000 pounds of sludge at a cost of $33,000 in the month of August. Average daily flows for all the treatment plants were stable at about 12 million gallons a day, up from the drier months. And you can see from the chart that the heavy rains are most notable at the Agate plant and the Umatic plants. A little bit on Agana, but I think that's improving with the CIPP work that we've been doing on Route 1. And then again with Northern District, once we completed the interceptor, we really didn't see the same type of influence of wet weather on our average daily flow. So those are all very encouraging and bode well for continuing the CIPP work throughout the collection system. On asset management, for our PM to CM ratio, preventive maintenance is 73% of all work orders, and corrective maintenance is 27% of all work orders. This is excluding the leaks. And the completion ratio is 86% for preventive maintenance and 93% for corrective maintenance. Not as high as we'd like to see it for preventive maintenance, but as I mentioned, the cost containment measures are having an effect on our ability to complete maintenance activities. Considering leak repair versus equipment, corrective work orders, the ratio was 55% of the work orders were for leak repair and 45% were for equipment repair. And the completion ratios on those, 95% of the leaks were repaired, work orders were completed, and 93% of equipment work orders were completed. Moving on, just briefly on the One Guam update, we did pass another inspection at Tumon Maui well with no major issues, so that's great for our Tumon Maui well production team. On the OEA projects, just an update on the NGLA wells. All of the rehab wells that are off the base have been completed. The remaining work is only the 7 new wells and 2 existing wells on the base, which we're working on. And out of those 7 wells, we have 4 completed. One well, well number 5 in Jigo, cannot be drilled to depth. The driller encountered something at just at the bottom of the freshwater lens that stopped it. It's supposed to go all the way through to basement, and we can't go any further. So that one, we're evaluating whether it can be converted to a production well. There's some testing that's pending on that. So we moved on to well number 6, and that started August 10th. The pilot hole has been completed to full depth, and we should be finished with that one by the end of August, no issues. And then we'll move on to the last well at Anderson Air Force Base number 1, which is next on the schedule. On the 2 rehab wells, one has been completed and the other one has started at EX8. So we anticipate being completely done with this project by the end of October. The one caveat is if we are able to convert well number 5 to a production well, we may still attempt to put in one more well to give Weary what it needs for proper monitoring. The siting of that, if it does take a little bit longer, that may extend, and we haven't made a decision point on that until we determine whether or not it's feasible to convert this to a production well. It is in a very healthy part of the aquifer, so it would be a boon to our production capacity in GWA. So we're looking out for that. There's a couple other property transfer issues that those are still stalled for one Guam, and a couple other initiatives that we're working on, notably with one Guam, and that's the PFAS issue, trying to get our heads wrapped around that, and I think I'd like to do a special workshop for the board once we have a little more information on that issue. And then also some of the wastewater discussions we've had about setting ourselves up to take wastewater from the Navy base. There are some ongoing efforts on that to try to put that in place. On the court order summary, no changes, of course, until we get the last of the remaining tank projects completed. We do anticipate hopefully by next month, we will have bids in on several tank projects, which we will be able to bring to the board for their approval. We did have SSOs with all the rain that we've been having in August, and they've been compounded by some of the issues we're having at pump stations with pump failures. Again, these are maintenance issues that may be related to our inability to put sufficient resources into the preventive maintenance. Not too much in the way of land acquisition. I think we only have one of the tanks where we're doing some land registration that we've actually made a little bit of progress or follow-up, but nothing else to report on land acquisition issues. And then on the leak repairs for the end of August, notably we've reduced the work order backlog by only less than 10 at the end of the day. So that's we're trying to keep on top of that, and at the same time move forward with our DMAs and leak detection. So we're putting a lot of resources into this, and hopefully we see some returns. But I caution the board, we are going to need a lot of CIP work on pipe replacement. That's what the initial work on the district metered area program is indicating to us, that we can fix the leaks, we can find the leaks, but we need to put some CIP money into line replacements. That's it for the operational updates. I'll leave it to Tommy to go over the financials.
As we spoke to earlier, our debt service coverage year to date is at 1.3. Our cash on hand improved to 279 days from 275, which is more than double the target. Our collection rate for August improved. Our days billed were 30, down from 32. Our accounts receivable days improved to 39 from 41, and we extended our accounts payable days by 4 days. Our FTEs are at 359, down 1 from last month. Our water and wastewater demand and flow are down, and that's probably related to the number of days billed. So going on to the next page, this is a snapshot of our income statement. Our expenditures for the month of August were higher than normal. I expect September to also be high as we try to make sure that we recognize all the expenditures before the end of the fiscal year. Next slide is our water revenue by rate class, and we continue to see our commercial and government and hotel rate classes improve compared as we see some reductions in our residential class. That was revenues, and then this is demand, which pretty much mirrors the revenue sheet. And then the next is our wastewater revenues. Again, because of the way that we bill our residential by flat rate, it looks slightly different from our flows, which are on the next page. We can, as I said, we continue to see improvements in commercial, hotel, and government. The next page is a snapshot of where our water and wastewater has been over the last 3 years. You might recall that in March 20 is when we kind of went into lockdown. So while our demand hasn't gone back to the pre-COVID levels as yet. And then this is a snapshot of our expenditures for the year by category. We're up about $9 million compared to last year, and more than half of that has to do with our cost of power. This shows water and wastewater demand against our revenues, and the next page splits it up between water and wastewater instead of combined. And then the next slide is basically shows our collection rates against our revenues.
Okay.
This is a picture of our AR aging. The slide on the left is with our all our customers, and the slide on the right is just our active customers, and a snapshot of our debt service. Happy to answer any questions if you have.
No questions?
No questions from me.
Okay, that's it? Okay,
That is it for,
okay. Motion, do you?
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, do we want to do?
we have that
TV, right?
potential listed under
Yeah. Okay,
3.6
motion to
other.
adjourn. Okay,
You had some other items?
No,
No.
just the one he's referring to.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter to me. Oh, you go.
oh, let's adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much. Somebody can do it. Where's our, Ann?